Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kimberly, and if you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you've been here before, thank you so much for your continued support. So this is February 2024. We just got out of January. At the new year, I recently introduced a new series on my channel, Elevating My Look, but things have changed, guys. Things have changed for me. I am going to change that series to Elevating My Life. And the reason why I changed it to Elevating My Life, because what I am on the journey of doing is elevating my life, changing my life. It's not about my outward appearance, it's also about my inward appearance. And y'all, I have been going through this journey. I've been going through some changes, and I wanted to share with you guys and also take you on that journey with me. I didn't want to minimize what I'm going through or leave out the process of everything that I'm going through, just making it about a look, because it's really not about a look. I have been going through things spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So there's a lot of changes that I'm going through, and I wanted to make sure that I include every aspect of that journey so you guys are all in the know. So part of that journey is my relationship with God. So I wanted to take y'all along with me on that journey. And I know I mentioned in one of my vlogs that I was studying the book of Daniel. Yeah, I started with studying with the book of Daniel for the month of January. So that's what I've done. And I want to just come back and just have a conversation, something like a Bible study with you all, just to discuss that things that I discovered and I learned and have been enlightened on. So I just wanted to have this series. I wanted to create a safe space so that we can learn and grow with one another. So that's my intention with creating this, adding this as part of my Elevating My Life series. I wanted to share how I'm growing and what I'm discovering when it comes to my relationship with God. I also wanted to remind you all, by far, I am no Bible scholar. I am a novice when it comes to learning the word. I have been in church all my life, and what I mean by that, my grandfather was a pastor, so I was in the church. I read my word. I read it. But when you study the word for yourself, it's a difference versus reading the Bible. Like I said in my vlog, I have read the Bible from front to back. But did I actually study and understand it for myself? No. I would go to church as a check in the box because that was something that I was supposed to do. That's something that I learned growing up. But now this is a difference for me. This is different for me in the sense of I am seeking God wholeheartedly for myself. I have postured my heart to seek Him, just as Daniel did. I have postured my heart to seek God, and that is so different for me, and I'm praying on that continuously because this is all new for me, and I'm learning and I'm discovering different aspects of God, and I'm loving the journey. And I just wanted to share with you guys as I go on this journey of discovering God for myself. And I want this community to be open to not criticizing one another, but being there and encouraging one another through this journey. So that is my intention, and my purpose is create a safe space that we can grow and understand God's will for us and become more like God. So, like I said, my relationship with God was contingent on what I heard when I went to church, or the scriptures that I did memorize, what I would say, and I would pray. I was an avid prayer, but it was always contingent on what I wanted from God. I'm not seeking Him. I never prayed to seek and understand God for myself. I never opened my heart up to understand God and nurture a relationship with God, and that's where my heart is at now. So as I talk about Daniel and then my discoveries, it's all about my newfound relationship with God. It's not about me. It's about me edifying Him and showing His goodness and graces. Alright guys, so when I studied the book of Daniel, a lot of the takeaways that I got from studying the book of Daniel was he was tested. So he was tested so many times. He was a guy that was after God's heart. His intention was just to please God wholeheartedly. Regardless what adversity he was facing, he always continued to seek God. Seek God for understanding, for wisdom, for knowledge. He just always sought God. Regardless of what came against him, he sought God. So I know the difference in Daniel and me, and based on what I read in the word, the difference is when I was facing adversities, immediately I became so upset and so distraught. I never really sought God. Understand that even though you're a Christian, even though you have a relationship with him, you're still going to go through adversities. That is where I was foolishly thinking that once I became saved and I was God's child, that I would not be faced with adversities, that I would not go through all these tests and trials. I felt like, hey, I was God's child, so why am I going through this? Why am I going through this? Once I became saved, I thought I was covered, that God was going to protect me from all this stuff. He does. But a lot of the things that we go through is to build that endurance, to strengthen us in him and in his word. So whenever you're going through things, it's not about you per se. It's about you building your relationship with God and understanding his purpose for you. I would falter. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not ashamed to admit that whenever I went through things, I felt like I'm God's child. Why am I going through this? It's not fair. I would have my tantrums and I would question God. But who am I to question God? Because God is God. He's a God that he will not lie. His word will not return to him void. And that's something that I needed to understand. In reading Daniel, he was tested so many times. He went through a lot. And we in this world, we think that the stuff that we go through is a lot. We assume it's a lot. And we don't realize that God is there through it all. Because if you see that Daniel postured his heart to seek God in all things, not some things, but all things. God covered him, God protected him, and he made sure that he was always cared for. He made sure that Daniel was always cared for and taken care of. This is the most I've actually got out of reading Daniel, the most I've actually got out of reading the Bible and understand how to apply it to my life. It's teaching me that I wanted so many things from God. I think you get so caught up. I think for me, I've gotten so caught up in having things and advancing in life that I did not realize the purpose and what God has called us to do. So in me reading and studying Daniel for myself, I realized that at times I got caught up with the wicked. I see everybody advancing, everybody doing things. At times I looked at what people had versus what I have in my relationship with God. I never really, because it said don't look at the wicked and what they have, because that's going to perish one day. So I want to build a strong foundation, a strong relationship in God, and know God wholeheartedly without a shadow of a doubt. In reading Daniel, it helped me to see that you do serve God. You're going to go through things, but God is going to be there with you. He's going to be there to protect you and guide you and give you what you need to make it through those circumstances. Not everything is going to be rosy. That's where I feel that. I always thought that everything was going to be rosy. It was going to be easy for me now that I am a child of God. But y'all, that was so ludicrous of me to think that, because guess what? I went through a lot. I went through a lot in my life. I have gone through things, but I have overcome those things through God. In the book of Daniel, it talked about how King Nebuchadnezzar made this big statue of gold and silver and wanted everybody of the land to worship that statue. When the tongue was passed, they supposed to fall down and worship this particular statue. And Daniel was not going to do that. His heart was into pleasing God and God only. And I realized that in reading Daniel, my heart was not always positioned or postured to just please God. It was about things. I realized that I should have been focused on God and not about the desires of what I always wanted. If you've been a Christian for a while, did you ever feel like you weren't going to be tested? You weren't going to go through those things that you went through in life? I was one of those people that felt like I wasn't going to go through those things in life. And that I wasn't going to go through those tests just because I am a child of God now. But if you read your word, you know that if you're a child of God, you will be tested. But the thing is, how are you going to get through those tests? You're supposed to go to God and have faith that He will walk you through those situations. But me, I lost sight of that years ago, and I realized that I wasn't going to God. I was internalizing a lot of the issues that I was going through. I was hurt, and I felt like God had left me when He didn't. He was there the whole time, guiding and protecting me through everything. And it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. And that I used to get from that, you'll have all the desires of your heart. So I was so focused just on my desires. I never really broke it apart and say, seek ye first the kingdom of God. But like, posture your heart to only focus on God. Only focus on God, and things will be added. If you focus on God and not just on the materialistic gain, the materialistic things that you can get out of this world, life will be so much easier. And I'm realizing that I made life harder. It talks about Nebuchadnezzar and how God allowed him to do all these great things and accomplish these things, but then he became boastful in his own right. He just thought it was through him, but God allowed him those powers and those authorities, but he took it upon himself to think it was only done through him. And then God had to bring him down a couple notches. Yeah, God had to bring him down a couple notches, and he lost his mind, was out in the wilderness, eating with the animals and everything, because he had to understand that God is God. And in reading this, I understood that God is God, and I understand that I seek God with my whole entire heart. I am learning to posture my heart after God. I want to seek Him with all things. In Daniel, it also talks about He always revealed what was to come. He always warned them. You always have a warning of things to come. And I feel like that is true for my life, because even before I went through my divorce, I saw vividly in the dream that I was going to be raising my kids alone. And that was one of my biggest fears, to be a single parent. I know y'all probably think, girl, that's crazy, but that was a big fear of mine. I always wanted to have the mother and the father and the kids. I wanted that traditional family. I wanted it to be good. I just didn't want the look. I wanted a good family. I wanted a good family environment for my kids. So the biggest fear for me was to be a single mother. And yeah, it's crazy how the biggest fears we have can also edify God's goodness and His graces. We don't even realize how we operate in fears. What I realized, my fears became my reality, because I had this fear of being a single parent. That's something that I never desired for myself. I didn't want my kids to experience that either. However, in that, I realized that entire time God kept me. Not saying I didn't have moments where I struggled, where I had hard times, but God kept me. And I always, in my time of not understanding my purpose, not understanding my relationship with God, or not even having a proper relationship with God, I discovered that He was there regardless. Regardless of how I felt and what I was going through, God was there, and He was protecting me and helping me through all those incidents, all those times when I didn't have enough. God made a way. God used so many people throughout my journey to help me, so it became my reality. That's where I made my mistake at. It's just another chapter within the Kimberly Shante story. If you have fears of things, if you have doubts of things, take them to God. Take them to God. Let Him help you work through those things, because you don't want your fear to become your reality, because you fixated your attention on that fear and not God. And that's what I'm learning, that through reading, he just kept his focus on God. Despite all the tests and all the trials, he would still always go to God. He would still go ask Him, go pray to Him, go seek Him. That's what I'm learning, that despite what I may see in my reality, take it to God, because He's the only one that can fix, help, or change anything. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I will be having a Bible study once a month so that we can discuss what we've learned. And our next Bible study is for the book of Job. And I hope you guys will join me on this journey. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.